Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Koufax.
Ladies.
And of course, you know him, you love him, you can smell him through your phone, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I've finally gotten what I always wanted, Badger from Breaking Bad in a superhero movie.
Oh, it's what we have all wanted. We are headed back into the theaters again to do another movie that's a comic book movie that no one knew was a comic book movie. And that's right, we're talking about Brightburn from executive producer James Gunn. And as we were saying off air here, man, this is quite the gun factory that we have going on here. At least his parents were part of the gun factory. We'll talk about that in a second. But before we get into everything, do want to say thank you to everyone who supports us over at patreon.com/HMP. Get yourself the pre-show, the post-show, and of course the Dinger Zone, where we talked about things that we should like, but maybe not necessarily like. Check it out, Dinger Zone, over at patreon.com/HMP. Well, boys, we've gone on to we're not really doing the proper trailers anymore. We have our own made-up trailers here and everything, and
fake movie trailers.
And today's my turn, so let's go ahead and play the trailer for Brightburn. He came from another world with powers and abilities beyond those of mortal man. He could be the hero we all deserve, but he won't be. From the director of Hive. What's that? No one's seen that? You do anything else? No. All right, how about this? From executive producer James, you want me back now, don't you, bitch, Gunn, comes the unexpected action-packed sci-fi horror movie of the year, starring the woman that refuses to age, Elizabeth Banks, that dickhead Roy from The Office, Badger from Breaking Bad. Jennifer, you think you've seen me in something before, but I promise you don't watch those shows, Holland. And you've seen him as Child Scott Lang in the Avengers Endgame. Now see him as evil Superman, Jackson A. Dunn. Stars in a movie that has people saying, I didn't know this was a thing, and I'll have one ticket to Aladdin, please. Brightburn, rated R. All right, everybody, that was a trailer.
So Adam,
yes.
little constructive feedback. Mm-hmm. It needed to be about 45 seconds longer.
I'm not listening to you on this advice for this stuff, Jack. That's enough.
Hey, your trailer had an intermission in the middle.
In music.
And just like an intermission, many people were walking out. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. What if a child from another world crash-landed on Earth, but instead of becoming a hero to mankind, he proved to be something far more sinister? As we said, this is written by two of James Gunn's brothers, I believe. Starring
Cousins,
brothers.
A brother and a cousin and his cousin's brother or something like that.
Cousins, brothers, sisters, friends, nephews, uncle, something about the, I don't know. All right, Elizabeth Banks, David Denneman, Jackson A. Dunn, and more. Bruce, this is not based on a comic book proper, but, you know, it's HMP, so we got to do it.
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
Let's see what he can pull out of his comic bag today.
Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. His first appearance is usually referenced as Action Comics #1, in which the character appears as a hero fairly similar to the one we know today. But Superman was, let's just say, workshopped a bit before his moment in the sun with national publications. The first appearance of the character in any form of commercially distributed print was probably, and I say probably because there's always someone willing to push their glasses up their nose and say, actually, during discussions like this, but probably was a short story called The Reign of the Superman. This is a short story that was published in a fanzine called Science Fiction, The Advanced Guard of Future, issue #3. And in this story, the titular Superman was a villain rather than a hero. And in fact, the illustration that accompanied the story had the character look quite similar to Lex Luthor with his bald head and menacing facial expression. According to later interviews with Siegel, the name Superman was inspired by Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of an Übermensch, And in the unlikely event, the very unlikely event, that any of our listeners don't speak German, Übermensch doesn't have anything to do with ride sharing, but it actually means Supermensch. Now, the story featured a meek man transformed into a powerful villain bent on dominating the world. Siegel published it under the pen name Herbert S. Fine, combining the first name of a cousin with his mother's maiden name. And this also has the Three Stooges fan in me desperately hoping that this means Superman's creator and Larry Fine are cousins. But that is a story for another episode. By the way, guys, when are we going to review the Robonic Stooges on HMP? There are several episodes of the Robonic Stooges waiting for us, so just get back to me on that one.
Man.
Well, even after Action Comics #1 firmly planted Superman's feet on heroic ground, and unbeknownst to many, Detective Comics #1 featured Slam Bradley, another Siegel and Schuster creation, so there's your trivia for the week. But after Superman was established as a good guy, the thought of an evil Superman persisted. The Great Darkness Saga is a Legion of Superheroes story from 1982 in which Darkseid conquers the universe and sends a corrupted Superman made of smoldering brimstone to attack the Legionnaires. In a similar vein is the 1998 story Superman, the Darkseid, in which baby Kal-El's rocket lands on Apokolips instead of Earth. In 1999, the Elseworlds story, The Superman Monster, splices the story of Superman into Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a story that has Luthor finding the skeleton of a dead alien child and bringing it back to life. One of the more famous and more recent heel turns for Superman comes from the video game-inspired Injustice: Gods Among Us. After the Joker tricks the Man of Steel into killing the pregnant Lois Lane, Superman realizes that he's been too lenient on criminals and uses his powers to be a proactive force for good. That slippery slope not only quickly leads to a superhero civil war, but also a worldwide totalitarian state under the oppressive thumb of Superman. Mark Millar's 3-issue miniseries, Superman Red Sun, deals more with varying perceptions of good and evil than it does with the concept of a straight-up evil Superman when it asks the question, what if Superman had been raised in the Soviet Union? Well, the answer is he becomes the champion of the common worker who fights a never-ending battle for Stalin, socialism, and the international expansion of the Warsaw Pact rather than truth, justice, and the American way. Grant Morrison has given interviews about letting his good friend Mark Millar have some input, some ideas that were used in Red Sun. So maybe that contributes a bit. But my personal favorite evil Superman has to be Superboy Prime. The character first appeared in DC Comics Presents number 87 from 1985. He was created by Elliot Maggin and Kurt Swan. And Superboy Prime is from a parallel Earth called Earth Prime. And the idea of the comic is that Earth Prime is the Earth where we are recording this podcast, guys. Like Earth Prime is us. It's devoid of any superheroes or even superhumans. There, Superman and the other comic superheroes were fictional characters entirely. But on Earth Prime, this young Clark Kent lives the first 15 years of his life as a normal boy. However, one night, as he attends a Halloween costume party dressed as Superboy, the passage of Halley's Comet overhead triggers his Kryptonian powers. At the same time, the Earth 1 Superman finds his way to Earth Prime, and the two Supermen meet. Superboy Prime uses his powers to stop a tidal wave. The Earth Prime universe then gets erased during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. And Superboy Prime ends up in a paradise dimension where during that time he found himself unable to let go of his former life and the destiny as Earth's greatest hero that was ripped from him. The bitter Superboy Prime works with Alexander Luthor to escape this paradise and trigger the events of Infinite Crisis. Superboy Prime dons the Anti-Monitor's armor and wreaks unimaginable havoc on the multiverse that culminates with him super punching reality so hard it brings Jason Todd back to life. Not only is Superboy Prime my favorite evil Superman, but he seems to have made an impression on others as well, because if you check out Superboy Prime's Wikipedia page, you're going to see in the Also Read section, it has a link to Brightburn, which it refers to as a 2019 superhero horror film with a topic similar to Superboy Prime. So that's it, guys.
Well, look at that. 1 and 1. People are already thinking about it. So like I said, this is not a straight comic book movie per se, but obviously a lot of different type of connections and stuff going in. What did you guys think when you first saw the trailer?
Go ahead, John.
I thought it was fine. I saw it and I was like, oh, hey, that looks pretty neat. And I mistakenly thought that James Gunn had written and directed this.
Me too.
Clearly, he has not after seeing it. But
and it feels to me like this trailer came out like a solid 6 months ago or something. Was it at a part of a festival or something? Like I feel like it got buzzed several months back.
It might have. I don't particularly remember, but I've been this was one of those trailers that honestly, like 20 seconds in, I was just like, you've already sold me. I don't need to watch anymore, so I'm out because I didn't want to know anything.
It was one of those high concept trailers that sold me right away on the concept, and I was very excited about it. But then in retrospect, it might have been just so high concept that I kind of could sort of tell myself the story without needing to see the movie. You know,
hyped your
like
own mind.
Maybe the trailer is all that it needed in retrospect, but it definitely starts to ask that question, like how far can you push what's an obvious parallel story on something that you don't have the rights to, you know?
Well, if you fellas know how I love to spin a yarn, so let me tell you what happened today, right? So I go to the movie theater, I get my ticket, I go up to the guy who's going to rip my ticket. Guy goes, I hope you're going to go see John Wick 3. I went, no, Brightburn. And he goes, oh.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, if you probably should. I mean, you know, you already paid for a ticket, but just go see John Wick 3, man. It'll make you a lot happier. I was like, well, I have to see Brightburn. Like, you know, I didn't go into it, but I was like, I actually have to see that movie. And he goes, oh, man. Well, you know, it's going to disappoint you. Basically, this movie asks the question: what if Zod was the Kryptonian who fell to Earth? And that's really exactly what this is. You know what I mean? Like that kid nailed it. That is exactly what this movie is.
And you know, I understand you can get away with a lot of goofiness with the parody defense when you're doing like. Not another superhero movie or scary movie with superheroes, you know, or Weird Al types. I understand that there's a lot you can do, but man, this is really, 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 it's very similar to everything, even the presence of kryptonite. I mean, the power set, everything is just so similar. I don't know how far you can push this without pushing it too far. And I imagine if it was the shoe on the other foot, like if something kind of smallish like Brightburn came first and then some big hit like Superman came around and the shoe was on the other foot, it absolutely gets taken to court. But I think it's the difference of punching down and punching up, I guess. There is something that has happened before actually with this.
It is the movie Jack Frost. Adam, you're probably familiar with this. I don't know how familiar you are, Bruce, but there was a horror movie.
Yeah, there's two Jack Frosts.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
And the horror movie comes first. And a snowman comes to life and kills everybody. And
like they do.
Say what?
Like they do.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the Michael Keaton like feel-good family movie where a snowman comes to life and tries to save his family. But the thing is that it's basically the same movie, only one's a family movie and one's a horror movie.
One's about killing.
Right. And so I'm not exactly sure how far it went, but I know that the makers of that original Jack Frost movie were taking the Michael Keaton Jack Frost people to court. And I'm subscribing to Jackass Quarterly here because I didn't do all of the research. But there's definitely a lawsuit in place at one time because that happened. And it's funny because I think what we're looking at here, like very specifically, isn't a parody thing. It's a how much can you change and have it be considered original. So like you have the kid, and by the way, we haven't even brought this up yet, but spoilers for this movie.
Shot in 18 days, that horror Jack Frost movie. I was trying to see if I could find any of the trivia that might tell us what may or may not have happened.
Yeah, like one had George Clooney and the other one had Batman, right? Wait, both of them had Batman, I guess. Because one had Michael Keaton, one had George Clooney. Is that how it went?
No, trust me. No one was in this Jack Frost movie that you've ever heard of.
Right.
No, the George Clooney was originally cast to play the family Jack Frost, and then he backed out of it, I think, to do Batman, and they got Michael Keaton. That's why that story is so funny.
Seriously?
That's the way I've had it told to me. But allegedly, if you can actually watch the movie and pay attention, something I've never met anyone who's done, but the snowman looks like George Clooney.
Are you kidding? It looks just like Keaton.
I'm just telling you what I've heard, man. I'm not going to watch that movie. I'm not going to settle.
I've heard a lot of things, and I'll be doggone if I'm going to watch it and either validify or nullify any of those thoughts or comments. I'll tell you that one right now.
So if you snort airplane glue and cut off your little toe, it doesn't hurt, but I'm not going to try it.
Here's the thing about this movie, right? Is that we're unless it has some sort of like monumental second life that we're unaware of at present day, we ain't seeing any more of this. Because even the same kid who told me to go see John Wick 3 said no one has come and seen this movie this weekend.
That being said, right now the budget for this movie was $6 million. It is at a worldwide $15 million.
Oh, that's fantastic!
So
Great.
This movie is I'm giving it one more week. It's in the black, so they're going to do just fine, I think.
Oh, that's terrific.
And they definitely are setting up something I'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah. That is mostly what I'm going to talk about this week about this show.
Yeah, me too. But here's another question I have for you. Like they're talking about, you're saying the idea is they want to do it just different enough that it's original. But man, they definitely want you to know what they're doing.
Oh, for sure they do. Yeah.
And here's what I'm saying is I totally get the idea that you want to ask this question. You want to make this movie. Maybe you think there's an audience for this movie. This is something that I was on board with, the high concept idea of executing it. But then like as a creator and getting any kind of artistic satisfaction, and I don't know how many revisions and how much editing and things to get what we had as our final product, but I don't know how much satisfaction you get from telling the movie the way they told it. I mean, it is really just they didn't give it any kind of real twist or turn. I mean, it's just exactly like Superman, only if Superman was a young Bruce Leslie. Because I got to tell you, if I had Superman's powers at 12, it would have gone down pretty much like this movie.
Yeah, me too.
So
I'll show you all.
But I mean, they really didn't put anything that I found terribly creative into it. They ask the question and then give you exactly the answer you would give yourself.
Yeah, you're right. And it kind of even unfurls the way that I had it in my head before I even watched the movie. Yeah. With all that being said, though, because I mean, we're going to be able to go into a lot of negative with this movie, it feels like. But I'd rather go into the positive stuff first, if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah. We could do that. I will say that at the end they did subvert one expectation I had.
Yes.
We'll hold that till we get there.
Yes, because you and I are going to be talking at length about that. I'm quite sure.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those rare events where Bruce and Sean are like ditto on something, because usually we're the ones that kind of come on opposite ends of it, and then Adam's the wild card.
Wild card.
Why do we always have to have a wild card?
Woo-wee!
Well, let's talk about some positives here. First off, I really like this cast.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been an Elizabeth Banks fan, and I like David Denman too. And he's like one of those guys that I see him and I'm like, I don't remember where I know him from, but I know that I know him. I recognize the name, but I always have to go like look it up on IMDb, what else I've seen him in. But I like David Denman.
He's on a little TV show that was on Cinemax called Outcast.
That's where I know him from the best, probably, because despite many flaws in that show, Outcast, I really enjoyed it.
Here's my thing about Elizabeth Banks. Elizabeth Banks is terrific in this movie. I've always been a fan of hers. The thing that I like about her in this movie is that she is going next level on this. she's doing something that I've never seen her do before. Maybe she's been in a horror movie or something like that. And I just didn't know.
Well, I mean, she was in a little James Gunn horror movie called Slither.
Oh, is she really?
So this
That's been a while, though.
This is very this is her camp and everything, with James Gunn's early, little directorial thing and everything. So my guess is it was all very friendly kind of deal.
That's great. But the other thing that happens in this movie that I had not seen her attempt before, maybe she has, is that she's mom in this movie. Yeah. And you buy her as mom. Like she's legitimately motherly in this movie. And I had never seen her do that before. I didn't know that she could pull it off, and I definitely didn't know she could pull it off as well.
And she plays not just mom, but like a little bit overextended, hardworking mom in a difficult situation. She plays not quite, but I mean, I think she does a better job than what I'm going to compare her to, but kind of like the mom in Cujo. Like, man, she's got a full plate and she's doing it real well, and she's become hyper-focused and kind of blind to some of the bad sides. And she plays a lot younger than I thought she would be playing these days, and does a great job at that too, especially in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And she's got that great, just, because she's a very beautiful woman, and she's done up usually in a very beautiful way. And this is a very, kind of down to earth makeup, no makeup kind of look and everything. And, and she pulls it off really well. You don't think it's, straying too much one way or the other. It's exactly where it should be.
Yeah. And to go to the other adult in this movie, David Denman, what's his character's name? Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle Breyer.
Kyle Breyer. So Kyle, the dude from The Office, I never put this together before this movie. If you need a guy who is an adult male who's like, you still kind of like him, but there's still a little aspect to him where he's like, damn it. And you're like, there's something off about that guy. This is your guy, like
something about that dude I don't trust.
If you need a guy that's like one of the dude bros in your dude bro movie, but maybe he's touched somebody inappropriately, this is your guy. You know what I mean?
He's a good one to cast if you don't want to let people know what the how it's going to turn out by who they've cast, because he's definitely one of those could go either way guys.
True.
Like there's some guys you cast in this role and you're like, oh, he's going to touch a kid before the end, but not with Dave Denman. He's like, maybe he could, but I don't think he will. We'll just have to watch and see.
But what's also good is he's a big physical presence, especially compared to the kid and everything, and that plays real well.
He's like the counterpoint to the guy that played in Split, the girl's uncle in Split. Like he's the evil version of David Denman.
Yeah. Yes, the guy who plays the big guy in Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Same guy.
Exactly, same guy. His two biggest credits.
Yes, that guy. You're right. Like those two should be in a movie together. Make it a trio. Have it be the guy who's the agent in the Netflix thing that came out earlier, Umbrella Academy.
Oh, yes. The guy that plays the serial killer in Mindhunter. Yes,
same guy.
Yeah, I love that guy.
All three of those guys together in a movie.
Along with Elizabeth Banks, just because we're all fans.
Yeah, why not?
But far and away, in my opinion, the secret treasure of this movie is Jackson Dunn, the kid who plays the lead. He is so good in this movie. He is able to do something that both Anakin Skywalkers couldn't do in the prequels, which is that he seems like a normal kid, and then he is definitely not.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like the superhero version of The Omen or Bad Seed. I mean, he's a little bit older than Damien, so it's more like the Bad Seed, but kind of the superhero version of that. Pulls it off pretty well. Another positive I'm going to say is I really liked his costume design that the kid did. The pictures look creepy. Had a little bit of a Mothman vibe or something, almost like a proboscis on the front of that mask. I still, even like when you get real good looks at it, you still can't quite tell what it is. I really like the costume design.
Is that a giant boxing glove he's put on his head? What's going on? I don't understand.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
It
man.
looks good. It's weird and creepy. Oh, you know what it looks like? Did you ever see The Orphanage?
Are you talking about a specific orphanage that I may have
No, it's
seen?
a movie called The Orphanage. Do yourself a favor. Check out The Orphanage. And the headgear's somewhat the same in that movie. So check out
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
Oh,
I've seen Orphan, I think.
Yeah, I know you've seen that one. Check out The Orphanage. You definitely would like it.
It's also got that same feel of the Trick or Treat movie.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
from
I think
a
I
look
like this
standpoint.
costume a lot better than that one.
Oh, that one, I'll agree with that.
But the Trick or Treat movie's definitely got its devout following, so I don't want to upset any of them.
And it's devout haters.
Yeah. Now, what did you guys think of the aunt and uncle that show up?
They're fine. They're fine.
I like Badger, but I can't see like his voice is so distinct. Has he done anything other than this in Badger? I don't know, but I love the guy. I'm just
believe
kinda
it or
happy to
not,
see him.
for your complaint about him with his voice, he's done a lot of voice work.
Well, it's not a complaint. I like the Badger voice.
It's very
man.
specific, yeah. But no,
Yeah,
he's done a
it's
lot.
nice seeing him there. Just
I blew
give
out
him-
my larynx 12 years ago, and I still talk the same way.
And they also have another guy that I consider fairly recognizable that's in a really small role when they're in the pool hall shooting pool. The guys played David Posehn's lover in the Sarah Silverman show, I think.
Steve Agee.
You know the
Oh,
other.
you talk about Steve Agee.
Yeah, was he in this?
Yes.
I thought he was, and I like him too. And it was one of those, man, I was like giving myself a furrowed brow until I figured out where I knew him from, and then it all clicked, and I liked the guy.
He's not like a household name or anything, but it is like when you know a lot of the comedians and stuff that, and then they show up for like a half second, you're just like, well, what was that day like? He's just, hey, you want to play this part? You got a shirt? Let's go over there and play pool.
And it was like this thing where I'm glad that he got the job. I'm sure he wanted to do it. But at the same time, I'm thinking, they could have gotten somebody less impressive to pull that off. It's a weird way to feel.
It's a $6 million movie. He got paid scale. He'll be fine. He got a sandwich that day. He was happy.
Absolutely. And it gives him a little more street cred being in this.
Yeah, it's just like, look, I was in a serious movie, not just some comedy, a serious movie.
And I do have to say, even though this is by the numbers, with the exception of the end, this movie is well paced. And the dialogue, the way that the characters speak to each other was surprising to me because the parents actually talk to their kid the way that parents actually talk to their kid.
Yeah.
And that was very surprising to me because that doesn't happen very often in movies as far as I'm concerned, where it's always like, look how much fun we're always having. And that is not what this movie is.
Yeah.
When the parents are just being parents, it's very, very naturalistic, if that's a word.
And for a $6 million movie, I thought the effects worked. I thought they
do.
worked just
Well,
fine.
there's so many practical ones. It's surprising how much practical effects there are in this.
And it's so weird to me that like the difference in the quality of effects between a $6 million movie and like, what was the first Deadpool, 80 million?
Uh-huh.
Which is still an inexpensive superhero movie, but like the effects quality between 6 million and 80 million, the difference isn't huge. So it just impresses me, man. When I see this stuff, it impresses me.
Well, CGI is happening on Deadpool the entire movie, though. I mean, that's...
Yeah, that guy's being tracked and moved. Like, I mean, just think of his eyes alone.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But still, there's some parts of it that are fine. They work for me. I love the movie, but they're not going to win any awards. You know what I mean? And this is a $6 million movie where the effects look good. So a little bit can go a long way sometimes. I'm just always impressed when I see smaller budgets that really have good-looking effects and not Sharknado type effects.
Well, one of the things that they do really well in this is that they kind of Jaws the kid, where you don't really see the kid using his superpowers all that often. And when you do see him in the sky, he's far away. You're just seeing him hover there for like a 10 Mississippi, where everyone's like, oh my God. And then they look away and they look back and the kid's gone.
And half the time he's out of focus. So
And I think Chronicle pulled off a lot of the same effects on a reasonably small budget too. So, there's other stuff out there that's done it. But I just wanted to try to think of some more of the positives because I'm probably going to have a little bit more to say when we start to have a little fun at the expense of the movie.
Sure. The other thing that I liked and I'm surprised by is that you feel like you were in Kansas in this movie, even though it was not shot in Kansas.
I do not feel like I'm at Kansas in this movie. So
you don't?
Let's hear it. Like this. I felt, this movie was shot in Georgia.
Yeah.
And you get some scenes of the beautiful Kansas mountains. I mean, this looked way more like where I live every day than when I visited Kansas.
It's true. I mean, I haven't been to a ton of places, but Kansas is one of the places that I've been to, and I could definitely be like, well, this doesn't seem right at all.
And the only reason this movie is in Kansas is because that's where Smallville is. Like, they're so married to being on the nose. You can make this movie and have it in Virginia or Georgia or West Virginia. This movie doesn't have to be in Kansas to do what it's doing. They're trying, like I said, how far can you push it before it's just too much?
You push it real good is what you do, Bruce.
Yeah. Well,
my dad is wearing like a Spin Doctors t-shirt.
Salt and the pepper over here.
Hey, the Spin Doctors guy has actually retweeted our show before.
I love that guy, man. He's the best.
But you know what I'm saying is that this in the 90s, Jimmy Olsen was wearing a Spin Doctors t-shirt for almost 10 years because of their song.
That's true, man. That's true. Here's something though. Even if they had to film in Georgia, which I can absolutely understand at the time why they probably filmed in Georgia, there are parts of Georgia that are flatter than the part of Georgia. I mean, this really, it's like, it's that part of Georgia that is in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. It's kind of looks a lot like the part of South Carolina where they filmed Outcast, a show we've already referenced once before. I mean,
Bruce, let me do this for you. James Gunn, you need to take that CGI money and stop making people fly and start getting rid of trees.
How about you just say it's Brightburn, Georgia, or it's Brightburn, Tennessee? I mean, it doesn't have to be Kansas. I know what they're trying to do, but come on, guys. Enough is enough. We get it. He's
like, I believe in an alien space child that came down and turned utterly evil. I don't buy this Kansas nonsense you're feeding me. Get out of here.
I mean, why not just name him Clark Kent, but they spell the Clark with a K and the Kent with a C? I mean,
listen, I don't know
Clark
that is something their lawyers didn't think about.
I wonder if there is somewhere in some legal office somewhere, some lawyer's office somewhere, that, okay, this is how much it can be different from, and it's just like a pie chart. And it's like, you need to be at least 35% different from the character that you are basically speaking to. Yeah, it's like he just goes like, okay, what if his parents were Presbyterian? Exactly.
Okay,
and you have a
we
bunch of things like that. Like, okay, so what if we make the character a blonde kid? What if we have the kid like he can fly, he can have X-ray vision. Actually, he doesn't have X-ray vision.
What if he don't read very good? How about that?
What if he's a dullard?
It kind of reminds me of the John Wayne classic True Grit when they're talking about riding across Nebraska and you see like these vistas from the Rocky Mountains in the background. Like they put no effort into trying to look like Nebraska in True Grit. And that's kind of what we're getting here.
If the kid is a fat kid, does that mean we can give him all of Superman's power?
I suggest that it's possible.
Okay, man. So it does not look like Kansas to me. That's what brought all this up.
I think we're all having different conversations at this point.
I think we are. All right. Okay, let's get into some of the complaints because it sounds like Bruce has a cavalcade of complaints.
I don't think they're going to be different than any of the others. I before we get into the complaints, though, I want to talk about a few more good things. I like the way that he's sort of speaking the alien language, and I think it was a little heavy-handed at the beginning when they're talking about the species of wasp that forces its young into another wasp species community, and then that one takes over their resources or whatever. I mean, that was kind of heavy-handed, but I do like how he's having his sort of sleepwalking moments, and he's speaking this alien language that eventually starts translating to English, and it's take the world. I like the imagery of the back-to-back B's, which not only are Brandon Breyer in comic book convention of having alliteration for the first and last name, but also works for Brightburn with that same alliteration. I do like a lot of that. I like a lot of that. Take the world. There, sometimes
I like
think
how
you
he had
don't
to kind of figure it out, and like we kind of figured that's where it was going and stuff. I like it, again. It's told very well.
Like, I think that the being in Kansas on the nose is unnecessary, but I can deal with the take the world being on the nose just to let us know that it's not even that he's pure evil, like he's weighed the benefits of good and evil, but he's a species that's instinct is to take over this world. And it's just the same as that wasp that takes over another species of wasp's nest or whatever. By the way, I don't really like wasps, so they can take it. They get what they deserve in my book, but maybe different with the humans in Brightburn. Kansas.
I like that the gym teacher in this movie is almost, but not exactly Hannibal Buress.
I like that too. I like when I run across things where I have to like rewind and see, like, is this somebody famous or is it somebody that's almost famous? And then when I see it's almost famous, I feel better for not recognizing him right off the bat.
It was like a combination of him and what's that guy from The Wire?
Say what?
I said it's the combination of Hannibal Buress and what's that guy from The Wire? He kind of looks like him too.
Oh yeah, he does. You're right. But I thought for a second, I was like, wow, Hannibal Buress is playing the PE teacher in another superhero movie.
This guy's really cornering the market on PE teachers.
It's amazing. Like, you only hire Hannibal Buress to play the PE teacher in your superhero movie.
But they do go out of their way to make us know that this character has his own version of kryptonite. The metal that his ship or meteor, whatever you want to call it, is made from is his kryptonite. And then Elizabeth Banks gets the shiv, and I see she's the one who's been defending this child. And finally, it's going to be the situation where she realizes she has to be the, kind of of mice and men type ending is what I'm expecting here. And they do subvert that, because I did not give this movie enough credit at that point to not just do exactly what I thought they were going to do. So I will give them something in the plus column for subverting that. When she tries to shiv her son, he manages to fight that off and then kill his mother. I kind of thought it was going to go the other way.
It's also when the movie theater, when the dad tries to shoot him in the back of the head when they're hunting, and the kid just kind of like, it's like he got stung by a bee or something.
It's like he threw a pebble at him. It's like, hey, what did you do that for?
The other 5 people in the movie theater with me started laughing hysterically because they were like, oh boy, like that kind of thing.
And the thing is that, I think in a better movie, he tries to make a bullet out of the shiv. Like somehow there's some communication and he actually brings a bullet that could be a risk, but the kid senses he's going to shoot and uses his speed to dodge the bullet rather than just getting hit and turning around.
It sounds like CGI work to me, Bruce. You know what the cost is of what they did? 0.
Yeah.
Well, they had him laser blast his dad's head to bits.
You got to save the money for the laser blast. First of all,
you save money for the laser blast.
That's where if you're spending money anywhere, you save it for the laser blast. And let's talk about this. There's some awesome gore in this flick.
Oh my God, awesome! I thought I would never stop throwing up.
Oh, it was so
the shattered
good.
Light goes into that lady's face in the diner.
Now that did not bother me at all.
I am not shocked. I sat there in the theater and I go, Bruce is going to have a heyday.
I was like running over the old Rolodex of things I've seen in my residency and when I used to handle worse traumas. I don't think I've ever seen glass, but I've seen people in that situation with other materials, but never with glass.
He's looking back at everybody in the theater and goes, "What's your problem?"
Throwing up.
The one that got me was the broken jaw when Badger's still alive, but his jaw. Now that one, whoo boy, that was some horror movie gore right there.
Yeah, it was
good stuff.
But the eye didn't get me at all. I was like looking at it more analytically, just trying to decide how good of a job they did depicting it, which wasn't great.
And
but,
that's
movie theater started going down into a tunnel. I'm not kidding. My view, everything started getting starry on the corners. I was like, oh boy,
man. But between that and John Wick, man, we got a lot of eyeball stuff going on in movies these days.
Now, no more eyeball stuff in movies, damn it.
It all goes back to Game of Thrones and the Mountain, I'm telling you. But Michael Rooker, man, is this a plus or a minus to you guys? Michael Rooker's little show up at the end, because to me it's like, well, I'm glad it was there, but I don't know if that means it's a plus. But it definitely gave me some stuff to talk about. But I like Michael Rooker just in general. But for you guys, was Michael Rooker's little postscript there at the end of the movie, was that a plus or a minus for you guys?
I've been pro Rooker since Mallrats, so whenever I see Michael Rooker in something, I'm like, oh, this just went up one.
Yeah. It was good just to have him as a, let's be frank here, it's clearly like an Alex Jones kind of thing going down.
Yes, for sure.
And it's great. Rooker's Rooker, and there you go.
And
Rooker to me isn't the issue. It's what Rooker is saying, where it's like
that's
there's
the
a
point
whole
of it,
lot
yeah.
of like, hey,
Okay.
hey,
There's
everybody.
There's a Fishman monster that's been seen, so we got our Aquaman. They put up a pic of something that looks to me like the Flash. They show a picture of a typical Martian, like the Martian gray alien that could be an evil Martian manhunter. And then they really go out of their way to talk about the lady who uses ropes, which is, Wonder Woman. And I thought maybe there was an evil Batman reference, but evil Batman is pretty much the same as Batman. So I don't know. Like that's one maybe they can't pull off. But boy, setting up an evil Justice League and this movie has a small budget, so it doesn't have to make a lot of money. And then I started thinking, wouldn't it be kind of great if like this sort of did a split thing, but their evil Justice League succeeded like way more than the actual Justice League did?
That would be awesome.
Would be amazing. We started off with a $6 million picture, and now we're grossing more money than all of the original. Oh, that's just
it would
that's
be
harsh.
like it would be kind of like the Pitch Black. Like if that second movie was successful,
yeah,
we'd still be in that movie universe today. But unfortunately, the Chronicles of Riddick was complete terribleness. So they didn't keep going.
Now my question is, do they make Brightburn 2 next, or do they go to the evil Wonder Woman or the evil Aquaman next? Like, how do they proceed?
Well, if they go the Marvel direction, we need these other movies. If they go the DC direction, we'll have 87 of them in the next picture, and we're all supposed to pretend like we've known them our entire lives.
And I still wonder how far they can push this ripoff they've got going on, like legally. I don't know, man. I feel like they're willing to find out. I'll put it that way. They're willing to find out.
I mean, Mad Magazine's still in business, right?
Yeah, but they've got parody defense. This is kind of like, is this really parody? Like you're almost trying to tell your original project here.
Oh, so you think they should hone in a couple of more zingers in there to really just like, then you could just go, it's a parody. Did you not see all the jokes?
There's a reason they made it to like Scary Movie 12 and never got sued,
Yeah, they should have, but for common decency instead of copyright.
You know what I would really love to see here? I would love to see something like the next movie be like Planetary.
Okay, go on.
Planetary was a great idea. At least at the time, it was a great idea for a book. I don't know how it holds up, but
you're talking about Warren Ellis's Planetary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The three characters who are basically trying to take down the Fantastic Four, and they can't.
Yeah.
And so you have these. You have your terrible people. Like you have your terrible people set up in this world. So next you have to show who the good guys are.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like next movie is kind of a good person, more or less the quote unquote Superman story, if you will. And you could do that in another take the traditional villain story and then have that be the hero story, so to speak. And then by the end of that one, you meet the other one.
The Glass trilogy, then, though.
Well, hold, Adam, continue what you're saying. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, so I feel like I don't remember.
Oh.
But essentially it was just saying, instead of because this was the Superman story, right? So let's say, just for illustration purposes, we tell the quote-unquote Zod story, but with a hero, right? And then by the end of that hero movie that was shown, you think that you're going to see, the villain or whatever. Then the kid shows up or whatnot, or a more grown version of the kid, whatever. And then clash in the third movie or something. That's a thought.
Yeah, that feels a little bit. Well, I mean, come on, this movie doesn't care what it feels like, but I feel like we've got Glass for that. The Glass trilogy, even though it started with Unbreakable and then.
Listen, that was months ago. It's old news, old hat, gone.
I think they need to stick with the horror franchise that takes comic book characters and turns them into horror creatures. But I want to see them get the cojones to try to pull it off with a Disney property. Use a Marvel character and see if they get sued. I think Warner Brothers is more relaxed about it.
Who else does Planetary go after? They go after vampires.
Yeah.
They go after Godzilla. I can't remember who else they go after.
Now, if this kid fights Godzilla, I will pay so much money for that movie.
I'm down for that. Yeah, man.
There's no way to make that cheap unless it's a guy in a rubbery costume.
Again, I don't know that you've said something that will make it a less desirable thing for me to watch.
I'd like it if he just goes against Godzuki. Like him and Godzuki are about the same size.
Oh my gosh, it would be the
That
most
kid
adorable
terrible.
fight ever. I'll just do it.
Now, what'd you think about he goes from sort of not being sure if he has superpowers or not to sticking his hand in a lawnmower blade?
Boy,
I
that's
feel
a
like
jump.
That escalated quickly.
It really did. He was just like, I did throw this a long way. Stands to reason I should be mower blade proof. Okay.
First of all, both of you forget what it's like to be a 12-year-old boy.
Oh, yeah, you're stupid.
Yes. You were an idiot kid who's like, hey, I wonder what would happen if I did this.
I mean, I did just throw this over
Now-
there. I am pretty awesome. Let's see.
I will say maybe it has more to do with my particular personality, but at 12 years old, I was afraid if I like jumped too high, a ceiling fan would decapitate me. Like I'm definitely not going after a lawnmower.
And
blade.
you've got the height where that's easily bound to happen at any point.
Hey, couches and beds were great to jump on late into my life. But yeah, there's no way I'm going straight for the lawnmower blade. Now chewing up the fork, to me that wasn't all that impressive. Like I think I could chew up the fork when I was 12 and had healthy, like good, strong teeth and jawbones. I think I could have chewed up the fork.
It's still not good. That's not a good thing. You don't want to go like, you don't pull that fork out of that kid's mouth and just go, well, my child is regular and, normal like all the others.
But I felt like you need to have him chewing the fork before he sticks his hand in the lawnmower blade, but they do it after.
That's
you follow
true.
me? Like I think the escalation would have worked better.
That would be the escalation.
You're not wrong. And that's an easy edit that like you would never know.
And I don't know what it is. Like, just imagine chewing on a ball of aluminum foil. The way that
Oh,
is not a pleasant
just-
feeling.
That hurts
No.
my teeth just thinking
I
about
don't
it.
like
Yeah,
it.
when he was chewing on the fork, that probably skeeved me out as much as the glass to the eye skeeved out Sean. Because all I could think was how unpleasant that probably would feel.
Did
Like,
you
not a
almost
pain,
pass
just a-
out?
Yeah, I think I almost hurled up some popcorn kernels or something. Because just thinking, all I could picture is, man, that's like chewing on a ball of aluminum foil to the extreme.
There was one point, I forget exactly where it was. Maybe it was the glass in the eye portion, but I did put down that slice of pizza for a couple of minutes going,
Now, what did you guys think about the uncle? And this is like the uncle who married the aunt. Like he's not a blood relative, and he's buying a rifle for a kid without parental approval ahead of time. Like I kind of feel like there's some gifts if you're going to get for your nephew, you run it past mom and dad.
I
first.
also want to, that's another thing I was confused about. Number one is like, not for nothing, but the dad is into hunting. A, it feels like he should have, this should have been something that was broached way earlier. And two, he would know what that is by like, he's like, listen, man, I know what this is. I'm not stupid. It's a long rectangular object. You've been talking about this.
I thought it was a Red Ryder, BB gun.
No, it was like a 22 or
It was
something.
It was a real weapon, yeah.
I don't even think it was a 22. I think it was bigger than that.
Maybe. But it's.
But I also get the idea that the dad hunts, but they're trying to show us that like there is, and this is probably a little bit of the filmmaker's personality, but it's like you can be a person who hunts and likes guns, but you still understand there's some limits. Like maybe there are some folks that I definitely wouldn't want my son having a gun right now because he plays way too much Fortnite.
Well, what usually, well, not usually, there's no usual in this situation, but I know plenty of families who, they do hunt on the weekends. They do all that. And their kids aren't allowed to have guns until they're either 13 or 16 years old. And there's a reason for that. It's because, again, same boy put his hand in the lawnmower, and it wasn't really out of the realm of like, that's insane that kid put his hand in the lawnmower. It's kind of like, well, yeah, sometimes that's what 12-year-old boys do.
Give him the gun.
So,
I mean, by the time I was 10 or 11, I had shot rifles, but I didn't own a rifle. I did own a BB gun, which I proceeded to like shoot every one of my friends with as soon as I got it. So I can understand why I didn't own a rifle. But, there is that thing where like you go, you use it, you know how to use it, but you don't necessarily have your own.
sure.
If you didn't break skin on somebody with a BB gun, did you really ever own a BB gun?
Well, I never broke skin, man. The BB gun I had was such a wimp.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember it's like the kind of thing I put up a milk jug. I got back about 10 feet, shot the milk jug, and the BB just bounced off. Like they didn't even put a hole in the milk jug. The joke was like, I think one of my teachers told me he got his first BB gun. He was excited. He saw a squirrel. He shot the squirrel with the BB gun. It hit the squirrel in the head, and it was about like when Superboy got hit in the head in this movie. He said the squirrel just kind of looked around like, what's going on, then went back to whatever it was doing without even running away.
That'll show those squirrels.
What'd you think about the spank bank under his mattress?
What boy doesn't have that until you get to like the fourth picture?
Well, boy, once again, it escalated quickly from your standard, like, okay, he's cut out some underwear advertisements from his mom's magazines, and then boom, straight to the innards.
Well,
What a jump.
I think that works twofold, in my opinion. Because one, it's showing you that the kid, like everybody else has, that's so adorable, and then it gets weird, which is what this entire movie is.
Yeah.
and the second thing is that they're trying to show you that he is looking at things biologically instead of emotionally. That, you know, he's looking at these women because he likes the way they look, but he likes all of what they look like. You know what I mean? Like it's a definite alien thing instead of a human thing.
Well, it's interesting because when we get underneath where the ship is and everything, and he's taking a body and cut it open and investigating all the stuff that's in there, just like the
that was a nice little sort of off screen. You just kind of see it in the background, and the mom sees. That was a good horror movie element of the lady that was butterflied open like a frog in biology class in the 7th grade.
It's good stuff.
And the chickens, man, what was going on with the chickens? There were slaughtered chickens. I guess that was there to make it seem kind of creepy or imposing, but he didn't really eat the chickens. He didn't really even like dissect the chickens.
He kind of just skinned them.
It's the serial killer trifecta, right?
Yeah, the cruelty to animals. Right. This was definitely a Jeffrey. Like, even if he didn't have superpowers, man, you got Jeffrey Dahmer on your hands.
Yeah, and that's what they're trying to.
You're at least a bad boy, if not a killer. All right, and speaking of bad boys, sometimes we have to ask ourselves how these movies relate to the world's ultimate bad boy, Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Mm-hmm. James Gunn produced his cousin's script, Brightburn, and back when James Gunn was doing interviews in 2017 for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, James Gunn stated that he had some big plans for Sylvester Stallone's character. And he said, quote, maybe not for Guardians 3, but after that, end quote. Not long after that, all hell broke loose when some of James Gunn's old tweets resurfaced that seemed like they were written by a hacky open mic comic, no offense, Adam and Bruce. And James Gunn was fired from Disney and Marvel. But he got rehired by Disney. Now I'm wondering if he still has the same plans. I was once fired from a job only to be rehired by the same people later, and my mindset changed. I wasn't putting myself out there. I didn't go above and beyond. I did my job, but I didn't go extra. They didn't get my best. My first responsibility was to myself and not getting fired. And I understand that James Gunn is playing for much higher stakes, and I'm talking about working behind the counter at a deli, but it's the same principle. Sylvester Stallone has had his fair share of troubles, but in 2018, Stallone and real-life boxer Lennox Lewis went to Washington and watched the George Washington of modern times, Donald Trump, sign a posthumous presidential pardon for boxer Jack Johnson. I bring this up because there's a great photo taken in the Oval Office where Trump looks miserable. Stallone looks up to the heavens as if he's waiting for a thank you from Jack Johnson himself. And Lennox Lewis has a look on his face that looks like he wants to take Donald Trump's head clean off. And the more I look at this photograph, the more I love it. It makes me wonder if this was the best photo taken that day. Was the photographer like, hey, Lennox, is there a way you can look a little less murdery? Or if you're going to look murdery, at least don't make unblinking, unwavering eye contact with the president. And Lennox said, no dice. And this is the photo they used. And there you have it. This week's Stallone connection is James Gunn. Thank you. I'm Sean Koufax. Thank you.
All right, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to check that out, head on over to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast right there at the top of the screen. And hey, give it a like, why don't you? Bruce, where does Brightburn fall on the Robin rating system for you, sir?
I was really excited by the trailer, really excited by the concept. Found myself kind of bored during the movie at times. I know one of you guys had complimented the pacing, but I thought it was a little bit of a drag. Like, I knew where it was going. I just needed it to get there. I started thinking, you know what? This would be like a good episode of Twilight Zone. I don't know that this is a 2-hour movie, much less a franchise. And then I started thinking, well, what did I expect? This was exactly what I expected. Why was I excited about it? I don't know. I really thought that maybe it was going to have some kind of unexpected twist to it. Not really a whole lot there that probably a fifth grader hasn't already written in their notebook thinking, wow, man, I'm going to make evil Superman. It didn't work for me very well at all. Stephanie Brown from me.
Whoa.
All right, Sean, what do you got?
I do agree with you, Bruce. This movie is not something you need to see in movie theaters. This is something where if it is a lazy Saturday or Sunday and you are lying down on your couch watching television, this is perfect. This is a perfect movie for that. What this is not a perfect movie for is getting a babysitter and paying for 2 people or multiple people to go to the movie theater to see this movie. You don't need to. You can wait. I like this movie. I don't love this movie. I think that it is well executed for what it is. I think that this is a $6 million movie that looks like it is not. It looks a lot more than that. And I think that the performances are great. And is this Blumhouse?
No.
No. Sony distributed it. It's like H Crew production or something odd like that. But no, not Blumhouse.
That's funny because it really does have a Blumhouse feel to it. But for me, this is a middle of the road movie. It doesn't insult my intelligence like last week's did. This is a Damian Wayne.
Okay. And I think I'm only just slightly higher than that. I am going Tim Drake, but it just ever so slightly. There were enough elements in there that, like I said, it combined superhero films and horror films, and I love the, like I said, while it may not have been up to the the high standards of everyone else, I enjoy those like over the top gory stuff. I always look for great super special makeup effects and things of that nature, and they did a heck of a job here, really really good. And but Tim Drake, but just barely good enough to have a good time. But I think, Sean, you're absolutely correct. This isn't something that people do need to go out and just rush to see in the theater. It is a perfect at-home rainy day movie for sure. So that's it, everybody. We've done it yet again, and I can't believe Bruce was a negative Nelly on this. I guess the Dinger Zone episode was right, where it's what did you think should be right up your alley, but just didn't really work out.
The thing is, I have nobody to blame but myself. I mean, I knew what it was going to be, but I didn't realize just how much it was just Superman. You know what I mean? There's like nothing, no flair to it at all. Well, for me.
For you. But that's it. And we would like to hear from you. If you've seen it and you have opinions, email us, heremoviepodcast@gmail.com. Not quite sure what we're doing next week, but until then, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Well, I'll tell you this. Between June 2nd and June 15th, I'll be wandering the Irish countryside.
Well.
So if anybody's in Ireland and they wonder why I'm not on the show, just look for me. I'm starting in Dublin. I'm ending up in Belfast and hitting a few places in between, I guess.
Oh, so you're going to Northern Ireland, too?
Oh, yeah. I'm hitting the whole, in Ireland, they call it the whole potato, not the whole enchilada, from what I understand. So
I swear to you, if you don't drop that 15 times while there, you're not doing your job.
But if you miss me, you really, really miss me, you can always go read one of my books, Amazon.com. Go check out Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore, Nerd Spawn Genesis, or Dragon Blinder, the Lump Adventures Omnibus. You can go check any of those out, get all my great books, and then you can read those and say, and this is the guy that had the gall to insult how uninspired the writing on Brightburn was. Yeah, I understand my hypocrisy. I'll own it.
I always like to
Also,
say,
I had much less than $6 million to work with, guys.
this is true. I'll say this though, like, if you get one of Bruce's books, you always have a little piece of Bruce Leslie with you wherever you go. Think about that. It's important.
Yeah, because I put some of my blood in the ink, just like Kiss did for that comic book.
Oh, so metal. Sean?
You can reach me. You know what? It's not about me this week. This week, it's about a movie that comes out on Tuesday called General Commander. And it is a movie starring Steven Seagal.
Sweet.
It is a GRS operative, Jake Alexander, and his team of young recruits must go after the most dangerous and notorious criminals with the help of a Hong Kong billionaire. That sounds pretty great.
Let me ask you.
There is not a single other person that you would recognize in this movie because everyone refuses to work with him. All you have to do is work with him once and you know. But if you really want to see what a bad performance is, see General Commander starring Steven Seagal. And go to IMDb and look it up because the trailer is there. Do yourself a favor.
What's his
I'll be at the
facial
movie theaters, man. As soon as I get off work, I'll go straight to my theater.
What's his facial hair situation game in that one? What's he rocking?
It's a big dumb goatee.
Oh, beautiful. We're still in goatee times.
Well, he thinks that he's hiding the fact that he's a big fat slob.
It's tough to do. We can see right through it. I love the ones where he's like just throwing around people in like this karate match or something, and it looks like he's barely even breathing, much less struggling to beat people up. And these people are flying like rag dolls. It's hilarious. Steven Seagal's the worst, everybody. HearMoviePodcast@gmail.com if you think otherwise. That's it, everybody. Join us next week for, whatever we decide to do. For Sean Koufax, Bruce Leslie, my name's Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.